Introduction. Framing the conflict. Welcome to Some Things Are Relative, where we unravel life's profound questions through a philosophical lens. Today, we confront a seismic conflict reshaping global dynamics. Israel versus Iran. Can Israel decisively alter Iran's power, or are they trapped in an eternal struggle? This isn't merely about missiles, politics, or borders. It's about humanity's deepest drives. It's about ambition, survival, and the elusive relativity of victory. At Some Things Are Relative, we probe these tensions, much like Pursuit of Happiness explores existence. What does it mean to triumph in a clash that risks mutual devastation? Is destruction a path to peace, or a cycle of endless loss? This rivalry challenges our understanding of power, morality, and coexistence. We'll dive into the latest developments, driven by June 2025's escalating events. We'll trace the historical roots that fuel this deep-seated animosity. We'll weigh why Israel might falter against Iran's formidable resilience, and why recent actions suggest Israel could reshape Iran's future. Our exploration will remain neutral, inviting your perspectives to enrich the dialogue. What does this conflict reveal about humanity's pursuit of security and meaning? How do we define victory when outcomes are so profoundly relative? At Some Things Are Relative, we seek understanding, not judgment, in these cosmic questions. Join us with open minds, ready to reflect on a world in turmoil. Let's embark on this journey, together, seeking wisdom amid uncertainty. Current state of the Israel-Iran conflict. In June 2025, the Israel-Iran conflict surged to a critical, unprecedented intensity. On June 12th, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, targeting Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Natanz and Esfahan facilities were hit, aiming to halt uranium enrichment programs. Israeli F-35 jets struck missile silos, air defenses, and command centers. Over 20 Iranian commanders, including IRGC elites, were killed in precise strikes. Israel claims it destroyed half of Iran's ballistic missile launchers, a strategic blow. Cyber attacks, attributed to Israel's Unit 8200, disrupted Iran's military communications. Strikes on the South Pars gas field crippled Iran's energy exports. Global oil prices spiked 11%, triggering economic tremors worldwide. Iran's retaliation was fierce, launching hypersonic Fatah-1 missiles at Israel. Tel Aviv and Haifa suffered strikes, killing 24 Israelis and injuring hundreds. Iran reports 224 civilian deaths and over 1,000 injuries from Israel's bombardment. The International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed severe damage to Natanz's centrifuges. No radiation leaks occurred, averting an environmental catastrophe. The U.S. backed Israel's self-defense but pressed for de-escalation to avoid war. Russia and China condemned Israel, labeling the strikes as sovereignty violations. The UN Security Council stalled, with vetoes blocking any unified response. Civilians in both nations face unrelenting fear and displacement. In Iran, families crowd shelters. In Israel, sirens disrupt daily life. This violence sparks profound questions about the pursuit of security. Does such destruction forge stability or deepen cycles of vengeance? Nuclear ambitions drive Israel's urgency, fearing an existential threat. Iran seeks regional dominance undeterred by mounting losses. Global stability falters, with oil markets and alliances in disarray. Israel's precision strikes target Iran's strategic assets with minimal collateral. Iran's missile barrages pierce Israel's defenses, showcasing defiant resilience. Neither nation yields, escalating fears of a broader regional conflict. The Houthis, Iran's proxies, intensified Red Sea attacks, disrupting shipping. This impacted 15% of global trade, raising costs for consumers worldwide. Diplomacy remains elusive despite calls from Xi and Putin for restraint. Iran's economy reels under sanctions, infrastructure losses, and inflation. Israel faces global protests, with Europe decrying civilian casualties. Both persist, driven by existential fears and national pride. The environmental toll mounts, with oil spills threatening Persian Gulf ecosystems. Refugee flows strain neighboring Jordan and Turkey, adding humanitarian crises. What does victory mean in this relentless cycle of attack and counterattack? Is it control, survival, or the exhaustion of one's enemy? How do nations weigh human costs against strategic gains? The world watches anxiously as tensions rise with no end in sight. This conflict's ripples touch economies, environments, and global peace. Historical roots of the rivalry. To understand this clash, we must explore the deep historical roots of Israel-Iran tensions. Before 1979, Iran and Israel were strategic allies, sharing intelligence and trade. They stood united against Arab adversaries in a volatile Middle East. The 1979 Islamic Revolution transformed Iran, birthing a regime hostile to Israel. Ayatollah Khomeini branded Israel the Little Satan, alongside America's Great Satan. Diplomatic ties were severed, marking an irreversible shift in their relationship. Iran began funding anti-Israel groups, notably Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hamas in Gaza also received Iranian support, launching attacks on Israel. These proxy wars escalated, costing thousands of lives across borders. Israel countered with covert operations, backing Iranian dissidents and rebels. Mossad's alleged assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists became a hallmark tactic. The 2003 Iraq War, led by the US, inadvertently boosted Iran's influence. With Saddam Hussein toppled, Iran expanded its reach through Shia militias. Israel perceived this as encirclement, with threats from Syria, Lebanon, and Gaza. The 2015 Iran nuclear deal offered hope, limiting Iran's enrichment activities. But in 2018, President Trump's US withdrawal reignited tensions. Sanctions crippled Iran's economy, pushing it toward nuclear defiance. By 2024, Iran enriched uranium to near weapons-grade levels, alarming Israel. Israel intensified strikes on Iran's allies in Syria and Iraq. In October 2024, Iran launched a massive missile barrage against Israel. This set the stage for June 2025's direct, unprecedented confrontations. Israel's leadership views a nuclear Iran as an existential, non-negotiable threat. Iran's regime vows Israel's destruction, fueling its proxy network. Proxy conflicts in Yemen with Houthi rebels have disrupted global trade. Lebanon's Hezbollah has fired thousands of rockets at Israel since 2006. These wars have displaced millions, creating humanitarian crises across the region. Both nations' actions stem from deep-seated fears and rigid ideologies. Philosophically, this is a cycle of fear versus defiance, perpetually spiraling. Each side sees the other as a mortal enemy, incapable of coexistence. Historical grievances, revolutions, betrayals, and wars cement this divide. Can such entrenched animosity ever give way to reconciliation? Or is conflict their eternal state, a relative truth of existence? What would peace require? Compromise, exhaustion, or a paradigm shift? This history shapes every missile, every life lost in 2025. How do nations break free from the weight of their past? Why Israel might not overcome Iran? Despite Israel's military prowess, several factors suggest it may not decisively defeat Iran. Iran's vast geography, spanning 1.6 million square kilometers, poses formidable challenges. With 88 million people, Iran's population far exceeds Israel's 9 million. This demographic depth offers resilience against sustained military campaigns. Its arsenal of 2,000-3,000 ballistic missiles remains a significant threat. In June 2025, Fatah-1 hypersonic missiles breached Israel's multi-layered defenses. These strikes hit Tel Aviv, proving Iran's retaliatory capacity. Iran's alliances with Russia and China provide critical diplomatic cover. Russia supplies S-400 air defense systems, enhancing Iran's protection. China's oil purchases sustain Iran's economy, defying Western sanctions. Proxies like Yemen's Houthis amplify Iran's influence beyond its borders. Houthi Red Sea attacks in 2025 disrupted 15% of global trade. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point for 20% of world oil. Closing it could cripple global markets, giving Iran strategic leverage. Domestically, Israel's strikes have rallied Iranians around their regime. Despite 80% opposing hardliners, external threats ignite national unity. Protests against the regime dwindled as airstrikes fueled patriotic fervor. Philosophically, Iran embodies endurance, rooted in its 5,000-year Persian identity. This heritage has survived invasions, from Alexander to modern conflicts. Israel's air campaign may degrade Iran's nuclear and military infrastructure, but toppling the regime or erasing its influence seems unlikely. Historical examples like Libya's 2011 collapse reveal external forces' limits. Regime change often spawns chaos, as seen in Iraq's insurgency. Iran's decentralized militias and proxies could sustain resistance indefinitely. Hezbollah alone has 150,000 rockets, threatening Israel's northern border. The relativity of victory lies in Iran's ability to endure punishment. Does military might break a nation's will to persist? Or does it galvanize defiance, as history repeatedly shows? What would defeating Iran entail? Occupation, collapse, or containment? Each path risks unintended consequences, from insurgency to regional chaos. Can Israel achieve its goals without igniting a wider war? This conflict challenges our assumptions about triumph and loss. Why Israel could prevail. June 2025's events suggest Israel could significantly weaken Iran's strategic capabilities. Israel's air superiority, with US-supplied F-35 stealth jets, has proven devastating. Strikes on Natanz destroyed thousands of centrifuges, crippling Iran's nuclear program. Isfahan's nuclear facilities suffered extensive damage, per President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. U.S. bunker-busting bombs penetrated Iran's fortified underground sites. Over 20 IRGC commanders, including the intelligence head, were eliminated. By June 17, 2025, Israel destroyed half of Iran's missile launchers. This has severely limited Iran's ability to sustain large-scale retaliations. Israel's Unit 8200 cyber attacks crippled Iran's command and control networks. Strikes on the South Pars gas field disrupted Iran's energy exports. Global oil prices spiked, deepening Iran's economic crisis. Iran's currency, the rial, plummeted 15% in June 2025. Inflation, already at 40%, pushed millions into poverty. U.S. support, with $3.8 billion in annual aid, bolsters Israel's dominance. American THAAD and Patriot systems intercepted 70% of Iran's missiles. President Trump's order to strike Iran's nuclear site with bunker-buster bombs changes the dynamics. This could escalating the conflict dramatically. Israel's intelligence, from Mossad to satellites, guides its surgical strikes. Its Iron Dome and David's Sling systems significantly mitigate Iran's missile threat. Philosophically, Israel represents precision, exploiting vulnerabilities with unmatched accuracy. If sustained, this campaign could dismantle Iran's nuclear ambitions entirely. It could reduce Iran's military to a secondary regional power. Reshaping the Middle East's balance in Israel's favor is possible. Israel's technological edge, from AI to drones, amplifies its reach. Yet, victory's relativity persists. Does degradation equal true destruction? Destroying infrastructure may not end Iran's ideological opposition. The 1967 Six-Day War's victory bred decades of resistance. Could today's strikes ignite a broader insurgency or proxy war? What does prevailing mean when enmity spans generations? Israel's alliances and innovation offer a path to strategic dominance, but the human, economic, and moral costs demand deep scrutiny. How do nations weigh lives against long-term security? This conflict tests the limits of power and its consequences. Conclusion: a relative perspective. So, will Israel destroy Iran, or is their conflict an eternal, cyclical struggle? Israel's June 2025 strikes have significantly wounded Iran's nuclear and military capabilities. Yet Iran's resilience, alliances, and defiance suggest no clear victor emerges. Both nations chase security through force, risking catastrophic mutual ruin. Philosophically, this mirrors the relativity of human ambition and survival. Each side's triumph is another's defeat, with both losing more than gained. Victory may be territorial, ideological, or simply outlasting the enemy. But what does it mean when destruction breeds further destruction? At Some Things Are Relative, we ask, is any outcome absolute in such conflicts? Are they cycles of creation, loss, and fragile, fleeting renewal? The stars above remind us that perspectives shift endlessly. No resolution is final in a world shaped by relativity. Israel's precision meets Iran's endurance, both valid, both fraught with flaws. What does victory look like in this cosmic human struggle? Is it peace, dominance, or a weary, hard-won stalemate? How can nations bound by fear forge a path to coexistence? Consider the human cost. Lives lost, families displaced, futures shattered. What moral questions arise when power overshadows compassion? Your thoughts are vital. Share them below to deepen this dialogue. What lessons does this rivalry hold for humanity's shared future? Does force resolve differences or merely postpone their reckoning? Can wisdom prevail where missiles and rhetoric fail? Subscribe to Some Things Are Relative for more explorations of life's profound mysteries. Let's keep this conversation alive, seeking truth amid uncertainty.